Welcome to the Survivor Breakdown with Joleen. Welcome to the Survivor Breakdown with Joleen. That's me. Hey guys, welcome to the Survivor Breakdown with Joleen. That's me. I break down all things Survivor, Edge of Extinction, this brand new season. A couple of you have asked me where to get my Breakdown with Joleen mugs. I sell them on my Etsy account. The link is in the description. So welcome back to my channel. If you've never been to my channel before, I break down all things Survivor. This season, I just watched episode 2, and so I'm going to break that down in this video. However, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe, and also if you like my video, give it a thumbs up. And smash that bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. So without further ado, let's get into episode 2. One of us is going to win the war. We start off and Reem, who just got voted off last week, is alone on the edge, the island, the place of extinction. She's just out there. And she's cold, and she's wrapped in some kind of tarp, and she's just shaking, and maybe she's been there for an hour. I don't know. At the end, it says she had been there 3 or 4 days, but she is not looking well. And I am feeling for Reem because she's really worried about how she's looking to her family and whether she's a disappointment. I just want to be like, Reem, don't worry. You didn't look like a bad guy on the show. She's like, I didn't know I was being bossy or being the mom. I mean, yeah, you were doing that, but you're a mom. It comes natural to you. I think Reem was actually a very likable person on the cast. I think, unfortunately, someone always has to go. And when you have an older player who's a mom, it's an easy scapegoat to get them out first. But this island is really a place for redemption for Reem. And I feel so bad that she's like crying and worried about how her kids see her. I'm sure your kids are super proud of you. And the public, as far as I know, does not dislike you. I don't dislike you. I'm like, Reem, get back in the game and earn those Survivor stripes out there. The more I watch, though, it would be so hard to be out there all by yourself. I mean, especially as someone who, if you're a returning player, it might be a little easier. If it would have been like Joe, he would have been out there just like whipping fire in his undies in 2.2 seconds. But Reem doesn't necessarily know how to make fire. She has to find her own food. At the end, we find out that she's only had a slice of a coconut in the past, 3-4 days. So I'm worried about Reem. I hope Reem can make it, but I'm skipping a little too far ahead. But in the beginning, we got a little check-in on her. So I'm liking that they're doing a check-in at the edge of extinction and seeing what is going on for these people that end up there and don't want their Survivor game to be over. Then we check in on the tribes, and the Manu tribe is just coming off tribal council. We have basically broken it up between Wendy and Wentworth being the returning player and Wendy being the new person. I don't know. I like both of these players a lot. I've never watched any of the seasons that Wentworth was on, and I do think it's difficult when they bring players back because for the newer players, it is unfair, and Wendy definitely knows this, and Wendy is coming for Wentworth. She stuck with Reem in the first vote. She's now against her entire tribe. She feels pushed up against a wall, but she's not backing down, and that's what I like about Wendy. She definitely is like playing the game and talking, and she's talking to Dave and talking to Devins, and I love that she has her buff over her mouth because I feel like that would be where my buff is the majority of the time because of morning breath and just not being able to brush your teeth. And I know they have bamboo sticks and stuff, but also having to talk to other people who maybe don't bamboo stick enough, I would have that buff on my face. Also, people can't read your lips, and maybe it'll muffle the sound, and they can't tell if you're necessarily talking. So I don't know if that's intentional, if she just doesn't want to smell people's breath, or if she doesn't want people to smell her breath, or if she doesn't want people to read her lips or know that she's talking. But either way, if it's for any of those reasons, it's great gameplay. I would do that most of the time, is just cover up my mouth. I still can't get over the fact that they can't brush their teeth. And I saw a lot through this episode of them with their bamboo sticks, and I'm like, that cannot possibly do enough to fresh breath. I just don't understand why you can't have a little scope. Survivor, sponsored by Scope. That would make it so much better, but I guess you really have to brave the elements and the elements of bad breath. So Wendy is pushing for them to go after Wentworth, and she's really pushing this loyalty card. Wentworth knows that she's coming for her, and Wentworth is actually kind of cool about it because she's like, I know her position. I've been there before, so I know what she has to do, and I don't begrudge her for that, and I don't have anything against her, but we're just going head to head. So they're really not doing a personal game, which I like. I like to see these two women just thinking very strategically. Like Wendy's like, this is not good for my game to have this returning awesome player, and we know how she plays, so let's try to get her out. And Wentworth is like, I know where she's coming from because game recognized game. I've been in her situation before. All due respect, more power to you. I don't blame her, but I need to get her out. So it's really cool to see them not take this to a personal level and just play it on a game level. And I like both of them. I almost don't want either of them to go home. Right now, I would really, just on like a watching level, kind of want Rick Devens to go home. And I know that sounds very strange, but I feel like Rick is getting these people, for some reason, they're very trusting of him, and he's pulling out information, and maybe it's his journalism skills and being a reporter, and people just thinking he's a big cheese ball and looking like Jared from Subway. I don't know what it is, but people just open up to him, and he'll go, well, what do you think? Well, what are the numbers? And he's dropping, I mean, he's been dropping little bombs and little plans since the day they stepped on the island. I don't know, there's just something cheeseball about him, maybe a little bit of a fakeness to Rick Devens. He's just, I'm not feeling him. I don't know, my vibes on him, I don't feel too great about it. And I noticed in the competition, he was very quick to yell at Wendy and Keith and be like, back up! But he's supposed to be this like, oh, I'm cool, I'm a cheese ball. So I thought, oh, that was interesting. You yell at them, but yet you kiss everyone else's ass. And I think he's a big reason that Reem went home last week, because he saw Reem out there teaching Keith to swim and was like, all right, look at them. They're probably forming some kind of alliance. What are they doing? And he dropped the hint in everyone's head, which is good gameplay, but there's just something about his personality on the show that I don't like. And I find that, you know, when I watch reality shows or game shows like this, I either will pick up on people and be like, oh, they're cool, or I'll be like, there's something not right about that one, and that's how I feel about Rick Devens. However, David doesn't feel the same way, our returning player David, because he really trusts Rick, and they're out there in their undies, in the jungle, on the island, just talking about plans, and they even shook on it, that they are going to, you know, be loyal to each other, and David even threw in, hey, you can, I probably shouldn't say this, again, people are always telling Rick stuff, I'm like, quit telling Rick stuff, he is a narc, and he's like, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but you could take me, you know, to 4 or 5 and then snake me and then, you know, cut my throat. And I'm like, why is he saying that? I mean, that's strategy on his part, but it's a very strange strategy, I guess. You already kind of have Rick wrapped around your fingers, because Rick looks at David like, I can be your hero, baby. Like, that's his hero, literally the way that he looks at him. So they formed an alliance together. They seem to trust each other, and they seem to be on the same page. And David is feeling that, you know what? There are 2 returning players on this tribe, and there's only room for one, and that's him, so he definitely wants to go after Wentworth. But Wentworth is playing the game that she said she was going to come in, connecting with people, thinking to play more of a team aspect than for herself and try to make friends. So she throws out, hey, we should all group look for the immunity idol. And David's like, everybody look for the immunity idol? Because she doesn't want Wendy to get it, because she knows if Wendy gets it, then she's in trouble. So she's trying to get the team to be like, yeah, it's good for all of us. And David's like, it's not good for me. She's not going after me. She's going after you. So the team kind of agrees to this, like, play team strong. That's Wentworth's strategy right now, is to just go team strong, which I think is a great strategy. I don't feel like she's forcing it too much. I feel like she does have the respect of the other people, but they also respect her enough to know that she's a great player and they should get her out. And she has Lauren tied around her little finger, because Lauren is a big fan of Wentworth. She says that's one of, if not her first, it's one of her top 2 female players of Survivor of all time, her favorite, her heroes. And she spoke very highly of Wentworth. So she goes out with the group looking for the immunity idol. She talks about how important it would be, how she's wanted this since she was a little kid. And I'm thinking, you're still a little kid. She's very young, but, you know, she wants to find idols like a Wentworth. And as we know in Survivor, men tend to find idols more often than women. And we've had a lot of talk about this in the last 2 seasons. So Lauren finds it, and she is thrilled, and she does something I didn't think she would do, and I was like, good on you, Lauren. She hides it and she doesn't tell anybody. Can she keep this up? I don't know, because normally they tell people. But I thought for sure she'd run to Wentworth, and I was like, all right, Wentworth is just going to be Lauren's puppet master. But maybe Lauren is going to play her own game, and I love that, because I love a blind side. I love when we don't know what's going on. I love when you're aligned, but you're like, like we're aligned, but we're not like attached to each other. Like we each have our own game too. Like we'll look out for each other as long as we can, but in the end, it's the game of Survivor, and you have to play for yourself. And then we have the Kama tribe, and they're doing Dance Party USA over there. Ron Clark of Ron Clark Academy is just like breaking it down, doing every dance he knows, and they're choreographing dances. It's almost like they're at summer camp and not Survivor, and he's that camp counselor's in his 40s, and you're like, how does he know how to Dougie, or how does he know how to do these dances? But then Ron Clark Academy, you know, he hangs out with a lot of kids, so he's got his little rhythm, and it's stuff that he incorporates in his teaching and in his program at his school. So Ron Clark, I mean, all these guys, I know this is gonna make me sound so immature, but everyone's dancing in their underpants, and all you see is like, it's like from the movie, Juno, when she sees the guys running in the little shorts, and it's just like a schlong dance. All I can see is like, oh my gosh, all the wieners are moving at once. It's like too many wieners just like rolling around, and they're doing all these dances, and they're choreographing, and everyone's laughing, and Ron Clark from Ron Clark Academy is really bringing the life to this tribe and the life to the party. And All American Joe's like, yeah, get it, you know, he's got his like sprinkler going or something. And Ron Clark's just, you know, moving his dong, 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 dong. Aurora's laughing, Julie's laughing, Julia's laughing, Victoria's laughing, and then you have Aubrey, and Aubrey's like, yeah, she's laughing, but then we cut to an interview with her, and she's like, I hate this kumbaya Survivor. And they're on a high from winning. They feel on top of the world, and it's a different vibe. However, then we go a little bit into the day, and we see that Aubrey might be playing way too hard, and these newer players are not dumb. You have Victoria and Julia, who I think are two of the younger players, and Victoria's been a favorite of mine, a standout from the beginning when I saw her pre-interview with ET Canada. I think she really knows this game, and none of them, it's so amazing, none of them are really starstruck. The only person you see who's truly starstruck is Rick Devens with David, and then Lauren with Wentworth. But like I said, she's still playing her own game, which I think is very impressive, and looking out for herself, because we've seen this in, like, I don't know if we've seen this on previous seasons of Survivor, because I haven't watched as much Survivor as I have Big Brother, but we've seen Big Brother players return, and the game just goes to shit. You know, it's like the Paul factor, like the Yoko factor, and Paul shows up and everyone's like, Paul, you're so great, and they basically almost hand him the money and do whatever he says. So I love that these Survivor players are like, you know what? No, you've had your time. They respect their game, but they're like, we still got to cut you. We still have to get rid of you. And that's how Victoria and Julia feel. And they take this to Ron Clark from Ron Clark Academy, and they're all standing out in the ocean talking, and they're comparing notes to the game Aubrey's been spitting at them and telling them and talking to them and saying, wow, I really like you. You remind me of myself. You play a lot like me. And I'm like, ooh, Aubrey. It's like the scorned women coming together and comparing notes on the guy that's like cheating with all of them. I love it. But Aubrey's doing the same thing with Gavin. She's just like, I like you. I think we should have a conversation. We should have some kind of dialogue. She keeps using these same terms. And then the players talk and they compare notes, and they're like, oh, wow, she's spitting the same game at all of us, like she's a player. And where Joe should be the bigger target than Aubrey, but Aubrey's making herself a big target. You know, Joe's over there just winning stuff and knocking down trees and, you know, building a condominium on the beach for everybody and starting fire just with his eyes. And yet Aubrey is the bigger threat. So they're comparing notes and they're thinking, we probably have to get rid of Aubrey soon. So I'm impressed with the first-time players, that they're not falling into the trap of being mesmerized by the returning Survivor players. And Wendy makes a great point, like, you had your chance to play. And Ron Clark from Ron Clark Academy says the same thing. You guys had your chance. So now I'm looking forward to seeing these new players, these first-time Survivor players, taking out these big players. As much as I like the big players, I really do, I would like to see a newer player take them out. I think it makes the show more interesting. So then we go to the immunity challenge, and it is actually a challenge that Aubrey has done before. They have to basically swim to this cage, climb in the cage. There's this huge snake that they have to lift, and it's like this plasticky, rubbery, heavy snake, I should say, and they have to lift it out of the cage, and they have to swim with it and carry it back up onto the sand. And then there's these little discs that are in there, and they have to get those out. Then they have to toss these rings to pull down letters to spell immunity. And it is rough from the start because Keith doesn't know how to swim. And I'm just thinking, like, the Manu tribe is getting really upset about it. Chris, you know, I didn't think I was going to like Salesman Chris in the beginning. I thought he was going to be like another Dan from last season, but I actually am liking Chris. I think he has a good personality. He's cute. He is good at playing the game, and he also is really empathetic, and he stops and he's kind of helping out Keith and trying not to make him feel bad because, like, not everyone's the strongest swimmer, but Wendy, she's got the mermaid hair and the mermaid swim down. Like, she is Ariel in the water. She just takes off. And Chris is helping Keith. And I'm just thinking, the Manu tribe, you can't get mad because you sent home Reem, and Reem was giving him free swimming lessons. Reem was trying to help the situation, as was Wendy, and Wendy looks like a pretty strong swimmer. Maybe Keith could have been better if they would have kept Reem in a little bit longer. Probably not, but you never know. So poor Keith, you know, Chris is trying to help him, and then he's just getting, like, hit constantly with, like, come on, do this, do that. And then Rick Devens yells at him, like, back up. And at one point, they all get in the cage, and by this time, the other tribe is far ahead. You got Joe, you got Eric the fireman, and they're just, like, buff Broncos lifting this stuff, and you got Aurora, the divorce attorney. She's basically, like, yanking the snake down on her own. I mean, they have a very fit team. And so Manu gets the snake, and Rick Devens in the front. He doesn't know what to do, and he's like, let's send one of the big guys up. I'm like, that's supposed to be you, Rick. You should be one of the big guys, but he can't handle it. So then they send up War Dog, and so War Dog's coming forward and trying to help, and Chris is helping. And then basically Rick Devens told Keith to back up, like, get out of the way. So he does, and then he gets yelled at for not helping enough. It was just Keith couldn't win in this situation. And then they're pulling it on the sand, and then Lauren actually yells at Keith, like, grab a handle. But it looks like Keith's at least trying. He's rolling the sand. He's getting really dirty. But poor Keith, he just feels so worthless. And then they're getting closer, and they're doing pretty well in the challenge, and they're trying their best to catch up. But the Manu tribe, they just can't. I mean, Joe and Eric together, oh my gosh, the best thing Joe did in this competition was let Eric show how good he is at competitions, because that immediately puts a target on his back. Because Eric and Joe, I mean, pretty similar build, physique, strength-wise. And I think if Joe wants to play strategically, I would let Eric step up more, so when they do start coming for Joe, because they will. So I think it would be best for Joe. Hopefully he's got some gameplay in him, not just winning competitions, but actually strategic to let Eric show, yeah, look how great Eric is. You guys see how great Eric threw those rings, because Eric actually throws the final ring to win this challenge. Now the other tribe tries to catch up, and Chris does a great job. Chris is a leader on this team. Keith is in the back, you know, he's like, I'm ready, I want to help out, I want to do something for the team. And so Keith gets a chance, and it's just a hot mess. I mean, Keith's throwing him over here, over there, they're going over his head. I mean, poor Keith. And we have to remember that Keith is only 19 years old, guys. He's still a teenager. And I think we saw a lot of behavior in Keith that showed his age. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of experience, and these guys have been alive a lot longer than him and working out and doing these things, and Keith is just a kid, and he was trying his best, and he tried to help his team, but he just couldn't. He's just not strong in the ring toss or in the competition. So unfortunately, they lose yet again. So the Comet team, I thought for sure they were going to be like, you know, Ron Clark and the Ron Clark Academy, just like breaking it down. But no, they were just kind of dancing and happy. And then they also got a fishing kit and pole for their prize. And they also get immunity, so they don't have to see tribal council. So they're going to go back there and rehearse some more skits. While the Manu tribe, they got to go back and figure out, is this the time to make a big move and take Kelly Wentworth out? Or do they want to do Wentworth's dirty work and take out Wendy, who really at this time is only looking to take out Wentworth? Or do they want to be team strong and take out Keith? Because War Dog decides after the competition, I don't think we should take out Wendy, I think we should take out Keith because we want our team to be strong. Now, I was a little relieved because I do not want Wendy to go home, but I also felt for Keith. But War Dog, he is someone who, you know, Rick Devens and David were talking about it, and David's like, I don't know if we can make a big move and take Wentworth out like David wants to do, like Rick wants to do, because we would need like War Dog on our side. They don't know if they'll be able to change his mind, and they also don't want to put it out there and then have him go to Wentworth and be like, oh, guess what? Your homie David, yeah, he's coming for you, and then David's game is effed. So it's very up in the air who's going to go home at this point until Chris decides maybe we should take a stab at Wentworth, which, duh. Like, this tribe should definitely take a shot at Wentworth. Now, I like Kelly Wentworth, and I actually want her to stay. I love seeing a powerful woman on Survivor. I know she's had multiple chances before to win, but I didn't watch those seasons, so I want to watch her this season. But Chris, he actually has developed a bond with Keith, and Keith has said, I will not ever vote against you. You are my ally now. You helped me so much. I saw, you know, your true colors, and so consider me on the Chris train. And Chris is like, why would I want to get rid of him? And he's also like, I feel bad for him. He's a kid. And that's the hard thing about Survivor, is they allow teenagers to be on the show with grown adults, and it can make it difficult. I mean, because these teenagers, like, they don't have a lot of life experience and stuff. And then you have other players, it could work to their advantage if they feel bad for them. And that was kind of Keith's strategy going in, is to come off as non-threatening, but I don't think he was going to come off as a weak player that was going to cost them challenges. And this is what War Dog's saying. But Chris is like, no, I don't, this would be dumb. We need to take out Kelly Wentworth. And yeah, strategically, I think the best play would be to take out Kelly Wentworth. So David and Rick Devens are thrilled. They're like, oh gosh. I mean, David's like, I feel like this is a gift that was just bestowed upon me. Now Kelly is seeing a shift in people's behavior, because they are not playing this off well at all. Especially someone like Chris, who's supposed to be a salesman, I thought for sure. And when she talks to him, is like, is everything okay? Like, it just feels like there's a shift in the vibe and how people are acting. And Chris is just like, yeah, and then looks down. I'm like, Chris, you teach people how to sell things and make people buy things they don't need or necessarily want door to door. You should be able to fake this, and he can't, which only kind of makes me like Chris more, that he's not like super snaky slimy. But Kelly is picking up on this vibe, and she's like, I get it. I get that this would be a great time for them to get me out, but I'm gonna be pissed if I leave this early. So it's really up in the air at this point. Right now, they're thinking they're going to blindside Kelly, and they tell Keith, and Keith's like, oh my God, thank God, oh my God, thank God. Oh, I'm so happy that I'm not gonna have to go home. And, you know, Wendy doesn't necessarily know what's going on, so they just think, so right now, they're just under the understanding that they're going to blindside Wentworth. So then we go to tribal council, and you never know what's going to happen until you get to tribal council. And then they start talking, and it sounds like there's going to be a blindside, so I'm assuming it's going to be Kelly Wentworth. It's going to be a big blindside, but it ends up being Keith. So Keith thought he was safe, but the team decided to stay strong, and that this might be too soon for them to go after Wentworth, because War Dog had the last word with Chris. And even though Chris was like, yeah, let's get Wentworth out, this is a great opportunity to get a big, strong player out early, War Dog pulled Chris aside and was like, yeah, but right now she's kind of a shield for us, which, yeah, is a good point. But I think they should have made this big move to get out Kelly Wentworth. It would have been very dramatic and interesting to watch. But they didn't. They took out Keith. Poor Keith, when he gets voted out, he does not take it well. And again, we have to remember he's literally a teenager. It's 19. There's a teen in his age. And he walks away and he's like, you guys think you're gonna win competitions? Yeah, right. And he's just mad, and he's reacting like a kid would react. And he walks off, and then he comes to literally the crossroads in his Survivor game. Should he quit playing the game, or should he go on this boat and keep his game alive? And he cannot decide. It looks like at one moment he's going to pick to keep playing the game, and then he stops. He's like, oh God, oh Jesus, and he's praying as much as he can to try to figure out what to do. But we end with him going back and forth. Will Keith go? Won't he go? I think Keith will go. I think he will. I don't think he's that beat down by Survivor yet. I think he will take the chance and get on the boat. And for Reem's sake, I mean, she needs someone there. And why not have someone that she was treating like her kid come back? So it'll be like mother and son reunited. Because then we cut to Reem on the island, and she is about 10 seconds from pulling that white flag and having the boat come pick her up. So I think it would help for her to see Keith, and then it would be great for their games. Learn to make fire, learn to make shelter, eat more than a slice of coconut. Prove to America that you are survivors. But I wouldn't last. I would have pulled that white flag already. I'll be honest with you guys. Being out there all by yourself and at night and with bugs and no one, all sounds and animals. No, thank you. Reem, you have already proven a lot to me as a viewer that you have lasted out there by yourself as long as you have. And I think, Keith, if you go out there, I think it'll be good for you and for your game. So this is a good episode that kind of left us on a cliffhanger, but a cliffhanger I think I know the answer to. So far I have some players that I am really enjoying. I do like myself some Wendy because she's going rogue and she's like, go big or go home. I like that. Yet I still like a Lauren who is, you know, aligned with a returning player, but yet still playing her own game. I think these young women are really smart and they're playing the game great. I also like Chris. I was very surprised at Chris. I thought he was going to be a total D-bag and I was completely wrong. And as far as returning players go, David seems pretty cool, but I'm not a huge Rick Devens fan. With the other tribe, I think Victoria and Julia are two young women that can really pair up and make things happen strategically. Aurora has a lot of strength. I'm loving seeing her play. And then even little Julie from New York, I liked her speech in this episode where she's talking about how as women, she kind of mobilizes them like, we gotta get out and we gotta look for idols. And they're like, oh, so we should babysit and see where the guys are going? She's like, no, we should look for our own idols. And you know, Ron Clark from Ron Clark Academy. I mean, he's very entertaining, so we'll see what happens with that. But you guys, that is my breakdown of episode 2 of Survivor Edge of Extinction. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also, who are some of your early favorites? I know it's only 2 episodes in, but I would love to hear who you guys like and why, because I know it can change throughout the season, but it's kind of fun to pick our early favorites and early picks. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, like this video, comment, share it with your friends. I would love to get out there with more Survivor watchers. I will also be covering the latest episode of The Challenge on MTV, so if you watch that show too, that'll be coming out very soon. All my social media links are in the description of this video. Feel free to hit me up, follow me on Instagram, like my Facebook page. Let's be friends. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.